Well, we are almost 6 weeks now into the war in Ukraine with no real end in sight. Ukraine's president now using the word genocide to describe Russia's attacks on his country. Joining us tonight to talk about where things stand in this conflict is Austin-based author and former Pentagon advisor Jody Ferguson. Jody, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me, John. It's good to be back.
So tonight, Russia is denying these allegations that their troops are responsible for what Ukraine is calling a, quote, massacre in the city of Bucha. Comes after hundreds of bodies were found in the city in the suburb of Kyiv. What can you tell us about this just horrific situation? What's Russia's strategy here?
It's hard to say what Russia's strategy is when it comes to something as horrific as what's happened there. If the reports can indeed be verified, and the sources have come from as far afield as Israel and the rest of Europe, but if this is in fact the case, we're looking at crimes that perhaps have the worst Europe's seen, certainly since the war in Yugoslavia. As far as the Russian strategy, it's hard to tell whether this is in fact something that came from an order from above, or whether it was something that happened among the officers there in the field. Of course, the Russian government, as you mentioned, has denied it. It's hard, as I've mentioned before in talks with you all, it's hard to really understand what's going on in spite of all the massive coverage we're getting on this war. And there's also even been videos that are unconfirmed as well of Russian prisoners of war being tortured and shot by Ukrainian soldiers. So it's a serious information war going on between the two at the moment.
And as that was going on in Bucha, we saw in another city, a port city, Odessa, Russia shelling that kind of strategic port on the Black Sea. Russia, in this case, is admitting, yeah, we did this. What is the significance of that attack?
Odessa is a city that's not seen much of the war. It's the largest port city on the Black Sea for Ukraine. A lot of Ukraine's exports go out of Odessa. They hit an oil refinery, of course. As we know, there did not appear to be any casualties, but Odessa would be the final goal if Putin wants to create his Novorossiya, as he's been claiming, and cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea. Odessa would be the final key to that puzzle. So far, they've had trouble taking Mariupol and the rest of the Black Sea coast. So if the war spreads to Odessa, it signifies a expansion of the war.
And meanwhile, Russia is blaming Ukraine for an attack on a fuel depot in Russia. Ukraine denying that. What do you make of this?
That was a significant strike, if that, again, is indeed confirmed. And in fact, the Russian government has said that these oil depots were struck by the Ukrainians, so we can probably take it for a fact. What's interesting, I alluded to last time that the 4th Guards Tank Division, a storied Russian division that was helped defend Stalingrad and was in on the defeat of Berlin in 1945, met a stinging defeat on the battlefield earlier this month. They were in Belgorod, the city that was shelled, that was hit by Ukrainian helicopters. They were there to regroup and perhaps remobilize down to the Donetsk region. So the fact that Ukraine's taking the fight onto Russian territory shows that things are not going as well as perhaps the Russian government expected up to this point.
And just have a few seconds left here. I mean, to that point, is Russia kind of reassessing their strategy now, and what could that mean?
I think they are reassessing their strategy. Again, it's hard for me to say with 100% surety, but the fact that they've remobilized some of their forces, and we've seen that they've moved out of the Kiev region down to the Donetsk region, perhaps the new strategy is, rather than decapitating the Ukrainian government, they want to just stick with the eastern provinces that have been under dispute thus far.
All right, Jody Ferguson, always appreciate your insight. Thanks for being with us tonight.
My pleasure, John. Thanks for having me.